and thank you for joining us for a MidPointe Library community interview. Could you please tell us your name and a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm Roger Miller, and I was born and raised in Middletown and have an interest in Middletown history as well as area around here. I grew up in Middletown, first lived on 16th Avenue in a house that ARMCO owned that my parents rented. And when ARMCO wanted to get rid of them, get out of that rental business, Dad moved over on 15th Avenue, and that's where we lived. Barnett's Park was very important to us. That's a block over from where we on 15th.
What did your parents do?
My dad was millwright at ARMCO. When he passed away, he was a assistant general foreman at ARMCO. Was very well respected. He worked in the coding department as a maintenance supervisor, and he wanted to go over to the new zinc grip line when ARMCO built it, but he was having problems that actually he'd walk around and he'd just fall. And they found a big tumor at the top of his spinal column, and he passed away during that. He was a good man. So,
was he originally from the area, or did he move to Middletown?
He was born in Rising Sun, Indiana, and he was in Germantown when he got married and their stories says that when he went to ARMCO, a lot of times when he was trying to get a job, he walked from Germantown to Middletown. So, but he was in Germantown when he came to Middletown. First house was a rental over top of the store. I have no idea what that was, but I remember 16th Avenue. And ARMCO houses that block, probably 90% ARMCO people and many kids. I mean, we run loose in the neighborhood, played, we got along very well.
So speaking of running loose, what did you do as a child in Middletown?
As a young child, we probably played toy trucks and kids get together and they play some little ball, baseball, kickball, and that kind of stuff. We were mostly together with other kids down there. In the neighborhood, the houses that Dad lived in, or we lived in, had a front porch. And you knew all your neighbors. And I have two younger brothers. One has passed away. The youngest was the Down syndrome child. And the neighbors, I mean, her mom had to go somewhere or something. Neighbors helped her a lot.
As a teenager, did you do anything? Go to any restaurants, any places, stores?
Probably I don't know if you've heard of Tees. That's a restaurant in Middletown. That was in Middletown on Yankee Road. That's probably the best place and the place they like to go, the family liked to go. Frisch's had a restaurant on South Main Street, clear down near Engel's Corner. And I can remember walking down there because I wanted a big boy too far. Fast food places, probably the first one that I remember was on Verdi Parkway, was the McDonald's. We didn't go to a lot of fast food though. Ice cream, Avalon Dairy, if they take a ride on a Sunday afternoon or something, they often would stop and get ice cream. So,
Where did you do most of your shopping? Grocery shopping, or even clothes shopping?
16th Avenue, there was a corner grocer, and he was very good. He knew the people in that block, which today, we go to Kroger's, we don't know. And he also realized that they worked at ARMCO, and they realized that there was a possibility that they needed help, sickness or whatever. And I know that my parents carried a weekly bill with him. And when Dad got paid, he paid him. And I think shopping-wise, like a drugstore, they knew that Gillen Crow's was on Yankee Road. That one picture we had, the druggists and the people that worked for him knew my parents. I mean, that's just the way it was. Downtown, a lot of shopping was done downtown. Murphy's, Five and Dime, and John Ross store was a bigger store. Shoe stores, probably 6 or 8 of them downtown. You don't find it, And again, they had people who waited on you and fitted you, and it was very good. Christmas time, we would go, sometime during that, we'd go up to Dayton to Wright's.
Okay.
And that was always a treat for the kids. Wright's a big store. But yeah, we shopped mostly in Middletown.
So you mentioned that you grew up in Middletown. So presumably you went to the Middletown City School District.
Went to South School for elementary. I was in the last 6th grade when the last year that the city used the school. Later Fenwick used it, but I was in the last one. My brother was a year and a half younger than me, and he was in 5th grade when that happened. And he was supposed to go to Taft at the next year, and Taft wasn't finished, so they sent him, they took him over to Young Street, where they had some kind of a temporary place. And after Christmas, then Taft was open, and they went back. Junior high was McKinley, which is Rosa Parks, much closer than South School. You walked South School.
Yeah.
And then I went to high school. By the time I got into high school, as soon as I could, I got a paper route. Had a Dayton Daily News route, which was all over that south end of Middletown. Not a lot of customers, but it was okay. When I got the Middletown Journal route, it was over there where the canal thing took place.
Yeah,
that
area,
yeah, that area was my Middletown Journal route. Later, I got the route on that was 14, 15, 16, and that was nice. There were 200 customers, and they were all in them 3 streets and a little connecting street. So that was good.
Can you talk a little bit more about that job? Can you talk more about delivering papers? Like, did you have to collect the money from?
Oh, yes. Yes, delivering papers. We had to go down to the journal and get them. And yes, we had to make collections. We paid whatever the journal said we owed, and the rest of it was ours. We had some people who just very difficult to get them to pay. And I can remember there on Yankee Road, there was a family who came to Middletown to work at ARMCO. They were foreigners, Eastern European. They did not know English. Now their kids were in school, and they picked up English enough that you could deal with them. But yeah, it was pretty strange, pretty good. I can remember one December, Christmas, I had a bicycle and a wagon, and I went down there and picked my papers up. They were so big that I took a load of them and took them back up there on Centennial and left them and went back and got more. Also, the journal would pay boys to come in and help them, especially on Sunday, putting inserts into the papers. So did a lot of that too. Did a lot of grass cutting. By that time, I think I got pretty much interested in aviation.
Okay.
To be involved with aviation is going to cost you money. They realized I was coming around a lot. George Whittington Jr. was the manager. He would give me jobs. Now, I cut his dad's grass. I cut his grass. He'd take me out there to his house. I cut his grass. He one time asked me if I wanted to make some money. And he said, there's a new airplane going to be on the field. It's going to be tied down out back. But there's no tie downs out there. And he said, you can put it in. He says, I'll show you what to do. And you do it. And I did. I mean, I think he did that because he didn't want the liability if something was wrong. But dug the holes. He showed me how to keep the metal part so that it wouldn't fall into the hole as I put the concrete in. As soon as I was old enough, in high school, he give me a job. I worked in the evenings during school year and weekends. Summer I worked a lot out there. I don't know what the rules were about how many hours a kid could work, but he worked me at least to them rules. And I learned a lot. I learned to fly in one of his airplanes. I mean, I paid him and paid an instructor. Once I soloed that airplane, I joined a club, which was a lot cheaper. He was a check pilot for that club. He'd take people out and make sure they could fly it. Well, I flew it. I flew all over, did what he said, did some stalls, and he made me do figure eights and some of that. And no problem. Come back and landed, and something happened. It got me upset. here I am flying, first time in an airplane, and something happened. I mean, a large bang and what have you. And he very calmly, don't get too worked up. You know, he very calmly, he knew what happened. And I made a good landing. And well, right away I was upset. He says, don't you think we ought to get the airplane off the runway? So we did that. And he says, once we do that, we'll find out what happened. Well, the tail wheel assembly was mounted on a big spring, and it broke. And I always said, he walked out and picked it up and glanced at it, and he asked me what happened. He asked me if I broke it, if I was the guy that broke it. And he said, finally he said, showed it to me, how the crack in the thing had been cracked for a long time. It was real dirty, and part of it got cleaner when it broke. And I always remembered that, because when I was out at ARMCO, I learned something for that. Out at ARMCO, crane operators had to deal with one that cables were broke on the crane. And when he got in that crane, he was supposed to make sure that the limit switch on it was working. Well, it wasn't. And he claimed, the crane operator claimed that the cables broke while he was raising something up. They broke when he hit the limit and it wouldn't trip, and we're out on it. Well, I carried out what they took off the drum, probably a couple foot probably. But a lot of times there's more to the story.
Let's jump back real quick. You talked about, you went to the Middletown High School.
Yes.
The one that was formerly on Girard, right?
On Girard,
yeah. Can you talk about your experience at that high school?
Yes, I'm not going to say I was a real good student, class-wise. I did take a college preparatory course. Also, though, at the time was interested in old cars and airplanes. So I was in the auto shop class. I did fairly well in math. And last 2 years I had Katie Banker as a teacher, and I'm sure that people can tell you about her. Trigonometry, geometry. I mean, she was a sticker for theory. You write out this theory, you better have the periods in the right place and the commas. You might know the theory, but you better have it just the way it's presented. She was pretty good. She was good in algebra, but when you got the other, you had a rough time. I did not do a whole lot as far as extra activities. After high school, I joined the Air Force. I wanted to work on airplanes at that time. And in the service I did, primarily engines, jet engines. Most Air Force bases have an aero club. That's part of it. And these were civil airplanes. They weren't military, although some of them were what the military got rid of, but they were all under civil license. And Maxwell, Lackland in Texas for basic, Shepherd for training, engine training. And then I went to Maxwell in Alabama. Maxwell is Air College, Air Forces College there. I mean, the officers all over. But like I said, they had an airplane, had a club, had a couple airplanes. And there was a man in our barracks who was as a hobby, did parachute jumping. And he found out that I could fly. And he showed several people in the barracks how to pack a parachute. And he wanted to jump. So we went out and found a farmer who would let us land on his land, and I took him out and he jumped. Didn't have any problem the first time. Second time, there was one kid that, besides the guy that knew how to do it, there was one guy who wanted to jump. And I took both of them. The guy that wanted to do his first jump twisted his ankle when he landed. Very common with parachuting. And the guy that could do it, he wanted to go up 10,000 foot. And we went around that field for a little bit, got 10,000 foot. About that time, two of the jets from Maxwell come across there. And I'm sure they found our end number and what have you. They wasn't very long until they knew who it was. And that guy jumped, and I went back and landed and put the door back on the airplane and took it back over to where it was kept. And the next day, they called us in, called all three of us in. The guy with the leg messed up, foot messed up, had told him that he'd been out partying and he fell going up the barrack steps. But they knew better. But I was told that I was a violation of airspace, which I wasn't, but I was told that. I was told I had to make out an accident report because he hurt his foot. Didn't have to do that either because it wasn't causing the airplane or me. And then the Aero Club says, our rules say you can't land off airport. Okay, so they said you can't fly the airplane for 30 days. Well, being me, I found a little airport just south of Montgomery, Alabama, and went in there and asked, well, there's a man working on an airplane in the hangar, and there was one sitting out. They asked him about renting one of them, and he said, they're my airplanes, and he says, I take care of them. I can't fly with you because I don't have a medical. My medical's bad. And he looked at my logbook and he said, you can fly either one of them. You've been flying this same type of things anyway. You could fly either one. And I took one of his airplanes and flew at maybe 5,000 foot. First loop I ever made in one I did with his airplane. First spin I did with his. That's fun. After Montgomery, I was stationed, or after Maxwell, I was stationed in Korea, Osan Air Base. And that's fun too. At Osan, very big air base, a lot of transit aircraft in and out. Even foreign stuff, Japan and Thailand, and some of them places, in and out all the time. My outfit had 4 airplanes assigned to it. And what they had was 2 H-19 helicopters. And they had 2 L-20 single engine airplane. Pretty nice for a single engine, but had 2 of them. They had 2 T-33s, which is the jets, and they had 2 C-47, DC, civil-wise DC-3s. And that was it. There was an aero club on the base. They had an old ex-military, and like I said, it was licensed FAA-wise. It was in pretty poor shape, but we flew it. That type of airplane is fabric covered. And over a period of time, it deteriorates. And I mean, one time I was looking at the top wing and put my hand on it, went right through the thing. And I did a loop within, inside the fuselage, about that big a strip for maybe 4 or 5 feet, popped and was flapping in the back. But we did a lot of repair on that airplane.
Real quick, roughly what year was that?
Huh?
What year were you in Korea?
59.
59? Okay.
59, 60.
Okay.
While we was over there, they brought another one of them into Osan, which was a much nicer one. The first one, I can imagine what the FAA would say if they knew what was done to it. They were built with wood propellers, and there was a man from an army base up near Seoul who would fly it once in a while, and he looked at that prop one time and he said, next time I'm down here, I'll have a prop for it. He was working in a machine shop, Army machine shop, and the prop on the L5 had wood prop, had a hub, metal hub, and it was onto a spline shaft on the crank. The crank. And big nut washer, cotter key held it on. Well, he told me that he could get an L-19 prop. They're metal, different engine. They bolted right to the crankshaft. And he wanted a hub. He says, when I come back, that hub will be in this prop. And so he re-drilled the prop, and we put it on and worked very well. Tail wheel on that airplane, that particular one, could not get it to center. So when you went to land, if that thing wasn't centered and it come down on the ground, it would try to whip you around. And he says, next time I'm down here, we'll fix it. He brought an L-19 tail wheel assembly, and we put it on it. Now, that airplane, there was a man with an FAA instructor's license on the base, and he had soloed a kid, young man, who he could fly the thing, but he got badly lost and low on gas, and he decided to land actually near a bridge. He hit the bridge and flipped that airplane over and pretty well tore it up. Broke his arm, otherwise he was okay. But that airplane went away. We had another one though. And there was another group, airport, our military base, Air Force Base, south of where we were, and they got an airplane. Same thing, L5, and they brought it over in a C-124 from Japan. And it was in wings were off of it. We had to put it back together, and we did. We had no way of checking make sure what we did was right, but we did, like cable tensions, that kind of thing, was just a big guess. But I flew that airplane and took it to them, and that was a pretty nice airplane too. Tail wheel on it though did the same thing as the other one. So had to be. I'm pretty sure they put that L-19 tail wheel on it. Okay. I ended up in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Grand Forks was a new base. I was in a F-101 outfit, but it was built for SAC, the B-52s. And I was up there when they brought the first one in. I got extended. It was a 4-year career, but I got a year's extension. And ended up about 9 months, but that was because of Cuban Missile Crisis and Bay of Pigs and all that. But as far as I'm concerned, I was never in any danger or anything.
So after you got out, what did you do? Where'd you go?
First went to work for a company known as Ohio Aviation, which was up at Vandalia. Worked probably a year up there. And then came back and went out to ARMCO. I spent 30 years at ARMCO. Ended up as a low-level supervisor. Most of the time I worked days. When I got interested in history, that probably started while I was in junior high.
Okay.
We had bicycles, and we could go any place in town, and we did. And I was interested in automobiles, like many kids, many boys. But I kind of looked for older ones. And I had a camera and I started taking pictures of them. And the older ones had some of the sports cars, MGs. So that probably started there. When I was in the service up there in Grand Forks, I got a package from home. And whatever was in it was wrapped up in a Saturday journal. And George Kraut had an article in there about an automobile that was built in Middletown. And I found it very interesting, being interested in automobiles anyway. So I wrote him a letter, and he replied. I think it went through the journal, and he replied and informed me that there was other companies that tried to build automobiles in Middletown, and made a suggestion, which at the time I couldn't do much with it, but he said, when you get here, the library has got the old newspapers, and he says, I can give you some kind of a starting point, but if you go through them, you'll find a lot about it. Well, that is true. Once I started going, big books.
Yes.
Yeah, you remember them? Big books. Going through them. There was not just automobile stuff, there was aviation stuff. And I found that especially interesting too. And then the electric railroad, there was stuff once in a while. So it kind of started there. Once that kind of stuff started, I did join not the Aviation Club, but the Historical Society. And because of the way I was working, I wasn't able to attend real often, but I tried to attend. And Mr. Crouchen kind of talked to me and convinced me I should, do more with this. And we did. First program I did was for the Historical Society. It was about the electric railroad that came through Middletown. Had people, and it was given there at the old library. And there was people from Cincinnati who were very well known in this electric railroad, streetcars and interurban cars and what have you. And he actually gave me some photographs, some negatives, and turned them into photographs then. Once I retired, now like I said, I had kind of picked up this interest in local history, and once I retired, I could spend more time with it, and which that led to the books that we did. And Kraut was an educator. He was a teacher. He was good. Became principal, but I did 2 books with him. First one, he did a lot of work on it. And but he made it clear when we started talking about the second one, that was going to be more my part than his. and I think it was. The third one I did with Dave Clendenin. Dave lived in Indianapolis at the time, so I had a lot to do with it. Worked pretty good.
I know you're really passionate about Middletown history, and obviously I think you're one of the most knowledgeable people about Middletown's history. So what piece of that history do you think everyone should be aware of, related to Middletown specifically?
I think the early years are very important. I think even in my understanding, there's a lot that I do not know about. I think that's a big thing. I think, well, you asked one of these questions, you asked about changes. one of the changes, big changes, was the downsizing of the industrial base in town. And that caused problems not just with the industries, but with the downtown. It made it hard. Something else I think, well, a couple of things I think important in Middletown. Middletown was fortunate in attracting Miami University to the town. Very important. About the same time, they built the road system, which other cities kind of missed that. I don't know if I've really answered the question, but I think the early history, though, I'd like to know a lot more myself.
Let me just ask you real quick. There may not be an answer to this, but this year, 2025, the Miami-Erie Canal celebrated its bicentennial for the groundbreaking. Do you want to talk about the importance of the canal to Middletown?
At the time, it was very important. The industry base at the time used the canal a lot. Both took the water off the canal to power the mills, and then they used it for transportation, both to bring stuff, material to the plants and to then ship it back out. It was extremely important. It was kind of short-lived because the railroad took over a lot of that. Paper industry, canal and the hydraulic, which, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you could tie them both together. That was very important. The tobacco, I mean, Paul Sword come to Middletown, a tobacco plant right on the canal. There are some buildings, at least got photos of some buildings that were located along the canal that might be interesting to know just why they were there, what they did. Pork packing, canal provided that. They shipped pork, ham, what have you, went all the way to New York. The canal was very important. Like the pork packing, once the railroads come, it moved someplace else. Went Cincinnati for a while, then Chicago, but the railroads did that. Paper industry, I think paper mills were aging so much, and outside people, they weren't Middletown people. They had bought them, and yes, so they had different ideas, and I guess that's good. The paper mill down in Excello, Harding Jones, what we commonly call Harding Jones, it started out with Harding, but it was a very good mill and kept up pretty good. Made some very good paper, imprinted paper. Paper mills came to Middletown partly because of transportation, but more important, they needed water. And Middletown is sitting on an aquifer that has very good water, and It really doesn't matter what kind of paper you make. You've got to have water.
All right, Roger, I'm gonna 2 more questions for you.
2 more questions.
Just 2 more, right?
Yeah.
What is one of your fondest memories of Middletown?
Fondest memories. Well, when I soloed an airplane, that was pretty impressive to me. I have been married twice, and both of them pretty special. Something I didn't say, we talked about history. Both of my wives were raised in United Brethren Church here in town, Evangelical United Brethren. And I joined the church after I got out of service. So I knew both of them. Along with that, there was a time when I was laid off from ARMCO, and I did some work in the church, the building, cleaning up. And I found a number of photographs in some of the rooms that weren't used and what have you. And I got a hold of them and tried to find out what they were about. And some of the first things I wrote was about some of that. It went into the church newsletter. There was a lot. I ended up with that church. Every year they'd have a Sunday set aside for history.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Oh, I'd kind of like to talk to you after we get done.
Yeah. Then we can be done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh man, thank you, Roger.
Okay.